Hey, my name's Jonathan Hadel and I make music as Pink Buddha, and welcome to Force Fridays. If you've missed the other ones in the series, you can click on this playlist up above here to get to them, and maybe consider hitting the subscribe button if you don't want to miss out on the next one. Okay, so for today's topic, we're going to talk about clip lengths. Not the most exciting of topics, but it's something that if you understand it well, it can make your music creation more efficient and more streamlined in how you use the Force. On the Force, there are three main ways that you can play with the clip length for a recording, and I've listed those up here in case you want to jump around to what's most interesting to you. The first way I want to talk about is probably the simplest way, but it has some limitations to it. To demonstrate, I've loaded up an empty session in the Force and added a drum rack, one of the stock drum kits, onto track number 3. And when you're on this view, you can simply hit the clip button and it will pull up an option for you to create a new clip. And if you select on this length, you can adjust how many bars you want it to be. I'm just going to put it to 2 for now. Hit create new clip. And now we have a new clip that's sitting here and it's basically empty, like you can see above. Using this approach might be a good workflow for you if you like having your clip length and then just going in and entering the individual notes through the step sequencer. One really important thing to remember is that this method really only works when you're using MIDI clips and MIDI tracks. If you try to create a clip for an audio track, which is my second track here, you can create an empty clip, but there's nothing in it and you can't overdub audio onto an audio clip. So if you do create a clip for a MIDI track or a drum track, you can go to that clip and then start to enter in notes if you want to by going to the grid and hitting the pencil tool, and I could sketch in notes that this would go ahead and play. I just entered those randomly, so I had no idea how that was going to sound. So again, if you're someone who would rather start with the clip length that you want, 2 measures, 4 measures, 3 measures, whatever that might be, and then you just want to enter and program in your notes, this would be a great way for you to start. Now, the second and third way that you can play with clip length is by toggling the fixed clip length on and off. You do so by hitting the Shift button, and down below here, there's the second button over, it says length. And when you turn that on, if you hold it down, it'll talk about what your default clip length is going to be. And you can adjust that here if you want to be 4 measures, 2 measures. I'm going to leave it on 2 just to make these examples a little bit faster. And when this button is on, when you hold Shift down, you can see that this is lit, and I can toggle back and forth between it being on or off. When it's on, that means once you start recording and you get to the end of the 2 bars, it's going to loop back and start the overdub if you're using MIDI. If you're using an audio track, it's just going to finish the recording and then you're done. So my fixed length is currently on. I have it set to 2 measures. And if I come in here and start my new track, it went directly to 2 measures and then looped back, and I could have kept going on that if I wanted to add more things. Using the fixed clip length for recording is great if you're someone who likes to play in your beats, because you don't have to worry about bringing your hand off to come press the stop button. It's going to go for the amount of time that you want to, and then simply loop back and you can continue recording from there. This is particularly useful if you're recording audio tracks and you don't have a free hand to be able to hit the start and stop button, and you want to know that it's just going to stop at the end of the phrase and loop. Now you might wonder, why would you ever want to turn off the fixed clip length? Because this seems like a really easy way to record music into the Force. And here are a couple of reasons why I sometimes turn off the fixed clip length. One of the main reasons why I might want to have an open clip length is when I'm recording maybe another part. For example, like if I laid down a bass part that went with these drums, I'm not entirely sure what my idea is going to be yet, and I want to just let the tape roll, so to speak, play through some different ideas, and then go back and find a particular loop or section that I like the best. Here's an example of how that might work. All right, so I pulled up a bass line to go with my drums, and I'm just going to hit record and work out some ideas, and yeah, just let the tape roll, see what comes up. Okay, so I've loaded up a bass sound, and I'm just going to hit record and let it roll, see what kind of ideas come up. Okay, that's initial idea. All right, so now that that's laid out, let's go to the clip view and find a section that I liked. I remember in the beginning it was pretty messed up, so I'm going to change my loop start position to a little bit later. I'm trying to remember where it came in. That's good. Okay, well, I could choose, that's a pretty good starting point there. I could pull this loop length down to whatever I want to. I'm just going to put it at 8 measures to start with. If I'm making my own music, I generally like my clip lengths to be pretty long, so at least that I can introduce some variation to that and they don't become too monotonous. But for this example, I'm just going to cut it short to 8 measures. If I want to get rid of all the extra material that I don't need anymore, I could just simply leave it there. It's not going to hurt anything. And if I want to come back to it later, maybe a good example of coming back to it later is if I wanted to select this track to copy it to another clip location. And for the second clip, I want to come in and grab another section, and I'm going to start on a different set of measures. So now I took a 16 bar phrase and I put the first 8 bars on this clip and the next 8 bars on this one, which would help me to get away from too much repetition. And now I've broken it up between these 2 bars. If you don't need all that extra information in there and you feel fine with what you recorded, you can hit trim clip, and now it's going to eliminate all the other stuff that you recorded that you're not really using. The second reason that I might want to have a fixed clip length off is because I sometimes like to create parts that don't line up with a really strict grid. I find it to be kind of tiring if everything is so tightly lined up with the measure. So by creating a phrase that might loop at an irregular length, I introduce some chaos and some variety to the music. Here's a good example for what that might sound like. I picked out this pad sound, and I'm going to record that over the top of what we have so far. Make sure my record arm is for this particular track, and I'm going to go ahead and hit here to record. Okay, let's stop right there. I'm going to look at my clip length. So now I'm basically 9 measures in. I'm going to even change the end of that to be a little bit more irregular to 8 measures and 2. Let's just do 1 beat. Let's do it even more irregular. I'm going to shrink that down even a little bit more. So every time this loops, it's going to be offset from my drums a little bit, and eventually it's going to shift and move around to be in completely different places. And I like some of the unpredictability of that. This could be applied if you were going to be recording audio loops and you wanted something to be offset from the rest of your beats. You could always just record a fixed clip length and then go in and change it yourself and adjust it. I sometimes like just free-forming record and see what happens under those circumstances, but that could be really up to your own music making style. All right, that's it for today's Force Friday. If you got something out of that, consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week.